The Washington Free Beacon has uncovered some documents from Hillary Clinton's close friend and longtime advisor, Diane Blair, that paint a very different picture than the one provided to the same stream media and by the same stream media. Blair, who passed away back in 2000, kept records from years of private conversations, memos, and notes on Clinton dating all the way back to the 1970s, right up to her own death. The 40 pages of archives show that Clinton was a very, very ambitious and at times ruthless first lady that would sell out her so-called beliefs and so-called principles to get whatever she wanted. Clinton often complained that members of the White House staff weren't tough enough. She also defended her husband to Blair during the Monica Lewinsky scandal and referred to former White House intern Monica Lewinsky as, quote, a narcissistic Looney Tune. Well, here to tell me all about this is the reporter that broke the story. Let me welcome onto the program Alana Goodman of the Washington Free Beacon. Thanks for joining us, Alana.
Thanks for having me on.
Okay, so straight up here, Joe Biden. I mean, I have said on this program that the first Benghazi ad we see in Iowa is going to be from Joe Biden's people. Does he now have all that he needs to just wipe the floor with her?
Yeah, I mean, I think that this highlights a challenge that the Clinton campaign is going to be facing. I mean, if she decides to run in 2016, which is all of this stuff from the past. There's so much there. And Benghazi is another example. There is a benefit to having these decades of experience in Washington, her time in the White House, her time at the State Department, her time in the Senate. But there's also a downside, which is that all of these things can kind of come back to haunt you. And there were a lot of scandals in the Clinton White House. And this is something that the Clinton campaign, if she runs, will have to address.
All right, so who is Diane Blair?
Diane Blair is, well, Hillary has described her as her closest friend in her biography. They met in the 1970s in Arkansas when Hillary had moved there to when Bill Clinton was running for Attorney General in the state. And she ended up, they stayed very close. Diane Blair was an advisor to her and as well as to Bill. And she worked on the 1992 presidential campaign with Bill as well. So she had a long track record with them. After they got into the White House, Blair was a frequent visitor, and she documents in a lot of these papers and diaries her time spent at the White House and different conversations they would have.
If she died in 2000, how are you just getting these documents in 2014?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. The papers were actually set to be released earlier. Jake Tapper wrote an interesting story in 2007 about this archive. At the time, it was not open. The archivists were still putting it together. And there was some, complaints that this was not going to be open before the election in 2008 when Hillary was running. And there was criticism of that. So the archive actually did end up opening in 2010, several years ago, and it has not been written about.
The one that really stuck out to me was the Packwood scandal. I mean, I had no idea that Bob Packwood was seen as her ally on Hillary Care. And from these documents, we see that all her talk about not being in favor of single payer turns out not to be true. She was an adamant supporter of single payer. But Hillary Care, she needed Bob Packwood to sort of soften up the Republicans. And then when he had his own sex scandal, she referred to feminists who wanted him to step down as whiny women.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. I mean, I guess it goes to show that when there was a conflict between her feminist values and her values of, policies that she supported, healthcare was a huge issue for her, and I guess it was so much, at least according to these papers, or at least according to Blair's account, so much so that she was willing to overlook certain things that she might not have otherwise overlooked.
I also read in that early on she thought many reporters weren't too bright. The media? I mean, ouch. I mean, as First Lady, she thought the reporters were kind of a useful idiot, huh?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's a theme that you see through the entire archive. The Clintons had a very antagonistic sort of relationship with the press. There was Troopergate. I mean, because there was so many scandals and because the media was covering all of these scandals, there is this sense that you get from reading Hillary's comments to Blair that she did feel that under siege. She did feel like the media was kind of out to get them, out to destroy them in a lot of ways. So yeah, there was a lot of antagonism there.
All right, the big one. Monica Lewinsky, narcissistic Looney Tune. It almost sounds like, and I don't know how the feminists would react to this one, like she blames Monica Lewinsky for all this.
I think that's actually the most interesting part of the stuff that we found, because there really isn't much out there on any sort of candid accounts of what Hillary Clinton was saying right after the Lewinsky scandal broke, or right after Bill Clinton admitted publicly to his affair. So this is really a rare account. Hillary has spoken a little bit about what she was going through at the time, but she always says that it was a very difficult time for her. She had a lot of thinking to do. So that's what kind of makes this so interesting to me, because it really is just her talking to her best friend and telling her, here's how I feel about this. And yeah, I think that it probably would surprise a lot of people what she was saying, but I don't know. I think that maybe it could also make some people sympathize with her a little more. I mean, at the end of the day, she was betrayed by her husband, and she did privately lash out.
But that was going all the way back to Arkansas, right? I mean, that was going all the way back to Arkansas. There were rumors of rampant women being, his infidelity in the governor's mansion.
Yeah, and actually another thing that we have from the archive was a strategy memo that was put out on how to deal with the Jennifer Flowers accusations. Jennifer Flowers had accused Bill Clinton of having a sexual relationship with her during the 1992 campaign, and the memo was on. It basically said, we need to destroy Jennifer Flowers, expose her as a fraud, and just go after her in the media and in very blunt terms.
One of the ones that really jumped out at me also was this, fight they had over her 2008 DNC speech. Apparently, Bill Clinton said, no, I'm gonna make this one of my speeches, and he had some of his people add in some of his more folksy and romantic language about the country and what government can do, like his own 92 campaign speech. I mean, but she took it out. Yeah, well, actually, that's in, I think, the book that's coming out tomorrow by Amy Parnes, and so I can't really speak to that, but it is interesting. Yeah. Well, I mean, I didn't know that. It's just. I mean, I'm getting the sense from all of this that nothing really matters to Hillary but power. And I don't know if you got this from the archives. When did she get this idea that the world needed to bend to her will, that she was going to ascend to this kind of power, that maybe she took a backseat to Bill Clinton because she had to, but sooner or later it was going to be hers? Yeah, I mean, I think this is just, at one point, Diane is recounting a conversation with her, and Hillary says, I know that people think that I should change. I know that, people think that I should be softer, that I shouldn't switch my hairstyle so often. I know that I should suck up to the media more, but this is who I am, and this is who I'm going to be, and I know what I want, and I'm going to get it. And I think that was really how she felt. And you know what? I think that, as I said before, I think that she might actually win over some sympathy from people for that, or some people might look at her a different way for that, and not necessarily negatively. All right, Alana. Well, good work on the story, and thank you so much for giving us your time. I know you're in hot demand. You can read the whole article at freebeacon.com. And, of course, we posted a link to the article on both our Facebook and Twitter pages. Now, coming up, progressive